Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to T's Time. I'm TJ, thank you for tuning in. It's been a while since I worked on Percy the van, or actually recorded a video working on it. But today's video, before we get into today's video, disclaimer, EPA emissions, ordinances and codes, make sure you could do like deletes in off-road stuff. If you're on off-road applications, take that in consideration. This is just for demonstration purposes only, just because I have the parts. I'm gonna install them and show you how to install them. That doesn't mean I'm gonna keep these parts on my vehicle. So I just wanted to get that out the way. Install parts at your own risk, and just know what comes with installing certain parts that may or may not be quite compatible for your county. But getting into that, I have EGR delete kit. I've had this stuff for a while, so I just want to get it just get it out the way. I can't like really return any of this stuff anyway, so I might as well get some content out of it. So we're gonna have to do our EGR delete, EGR cooler. The only difference with this vehicle is a 6.7 Cummins, but it's on a van, a Utilimaster cab over kind of setup, so it might be a little different. But we do have EGR. I have a bunch of gaskets, and I bought like a couple various delete kits. So we have that, and then also we do have a Glacier intake plenum. So this is get rid of your grid heater, just because there are restrictions that kind of block airflow, and it could get like gummed up with just a carbon buildup and stuff like that. And also all this stuff is usually just done, some people say for power, but for me, I was gonna do it just for let's just say reliability. I just don't want my vehicle to shut down on me while I'm driving and just keep me on the side of the road. So that was the purpose of me doing that. But there's other things like power and fuel economy, especially with the prices going so high. But also, one thing to consider when you do decide to do this, your vehicle will need a tune. It will throw check engine lights if you just start deleting stuff and unplugging stuff. So keep that in mind also, and also if there's a program available for your vehicle. But for the Glacier, the intake plenum delete, it's this billet aluminum piece right here. Pretty nice. Get this open up. Whoa. That right there, nice and shininess. And so what you do, you grab like about a 1/4 inch like extra clearance so you get air to the back cylinders, like your 5 and 6 are back here. So this gains more airflow there, and also keeps this area open so it's not blocked. And it also comes with your spacers for your injectors. It does come with new gaskets, Cummins gaskets. And that's all that's in the box for that. And then we do have, like I said, we have various EGR delete kit stuff. I ordered just a bunch of random, just gaskets. I have to do adapter. Like I said, this isn't just like a regular like Dodge. The routing for your coolant lines is a little different. The EGR cooler vents off into the expansion tank. So hopefully this fits. Like I kind of tried to guess what I would need. So I'm going to see if it fits, if it works. If not, this might turn into like multiple parts, not for you, but just for me, just different days. Like if I have to order stuff, we'll come back to it. Just like the coolant lines that come with it. More gaskets whenever you're replacing and doing stuff. This is actually for the EGR delete itself part. The valve, brackets, hold stays, all that stuff. So we got multiple years, multiple variations for that. And then also to retain your what is it, your heater, your grid heater. To return your grid heater, because like this is going to delete the grid heater right here. There won't be that. I do have like a different style, screw-in style, so I will have to modify the EGR block-off plate. I'm going to drill through it. For that, or actually, let me see that. So EGR block-off plate. This right here comes with O-rings. And like right now I'm just kind of prepping. I need to let the block and everything cool off before I start working on that, so I could get to the drilling of that now. And also I do have like a mess. I need to get stuff cleaned up, just make some working room for me, and we'll get it going. But give me a minute, I'm getting stuff situated. Anyways, I'm gonna get my stuff situated, get my life together. We'll get this going. So let me get going and we'll get it going. All right, so I got stuff tore down. I got stuff broken. That right there, I just got that out. I snapped that when I was trying to get that banjo bolt in for the little expansion valve hose. I have to measure, I have to grab the right sizes in order what I actually will need, because this is being a custom kit in a sense, because it's a cab over industrial. But anyways, right now, this is what I'm thinking I'm going with right now. We have our silicone holes right here. I need to find a fitting that goes on that. It's a flat style that goes to a barb. To connect that, we'll cut right here. We'll have that run to our other coolant line right there. That goes down to, I believe, for our oil cooler line, or the bottom block comes up right there. And then again, we're gonna cut like here somewhere to end in that banjo bolt that will run up top right there. So I'm just gonna right now write down what I actually need, order what we need to order. I'm not gonna leave everything open like this. If you can, take like some gloves and put over all the openings so that nothing crawls in there, nothing falls in there. I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna just clean that up, stick some paper towels in our EGR over there and get that clean and flat and get the plate on there. I was planning on drilling and tapping into the plate, the EGR cover plate, to put that grid heater, the pole style, this, if I don't break this too, that, but this is too long. There's not enough depth down into the EGR unless I drill into it. So plan of attack, possibly, there is like a port right here. If I take this out, get an adapter for that, for this to live like in there, it'll go in there, so that way we have like some kind of like heat when I do need it in the winter time or something like that. We could get that going, but just it's not deep enough, like unless I drill down into there. Like that's as much depth like my finger will allow. It's like up to right there. So as you can see, like the difference is like double that. So that's not gonna work. So yeah, I'm gonna make it work. Right now I'm gonna stop the video for now, and also I'm gonna have to expand the openings for the block-off plate right here for our exhaust, because it's just too narrow. So I need to just open up the holes on the block-off plate so that fits, and get more hardware for that also. So that's where I'm at right now. I'll say it's semi-successful. We got the cooler off, the EGR valve is off. We're not doing, or we didn't do the grid delete, the intake plenum quite yet, but we're getting there. I need to get stuff ordered up, and since I'm snapping sensors, I believe there's another sensor that's attached to the block off, or not the block off, the intake plenum right here. I probably just want to order a new hardware and a new sensor, because I'm gonna play with that. And if like the bolt does snap, since it's kind of skinny in the factory one, I probably just want to go ahead and get that ordered up also. So that's where I'm at right now. It should work out pretty fine. And we still do have like the EGR or the like the block off, like there's exhaust stands and stuff like that. I'm not sure if I'll end up using those, but since this is kind of like a custom like install application, since you can't just, you know, go with like the Dodge versions, because there are different routings of the coolant lines that you have to be mindful of. So that's where I'm at right now, breaking stuff. I gotta get the part number off of this. It looks like 28592 2905 or 8, I believe. I'm gonna get this cleaned up and double check and look that up. But it's just, even like with this vehicle, it's best to just remove what you need to remove first before ordering stuff, because I've been chasing down parts from time to time, just saying like it's supposed to match, but it doesn't. So plan of attack is always just try to remove your stuff and get numbers off of it. But anyways, enough yapping. I'm gonna write down what I need to write down, try to get stuff ordered and get it here as quick as possible so the van's not down too long. But we're making progress. But yeah. right, went through, removed all of the injector tube, fuel lines. Right here, as you can see, I have like a little rubber cap on that. It's just a piece of a glove. But as you can see, like the debris on the towel, I covered up like the ejector openings as I went. You don't want debris in there. So like these little chunks that you see right there, just like the red paint from like the Cummins just painting the blocks for corrosion, and on the wires also, it chips off. So I do have them zip tied out of the way, the wiring, both up here, just to kind of give myself more room. And then right now I have everything disconnected for the fuel line side anyway. I have to unmount it still. But before I do so, I'm gonna go through with my little shop vac and go and vacuum in here. You want to keep this as clean as possible. You don't want dirt and debris to get in these injector tubes right here. You will mess up your injectors and just cause headaches, problems. Worst case scenario, maybe start a fire. But anyways, just try to be as cleanly as possible. I know it's not like the cleanest area to be working in, but like I did vacuum like before I started. I'm gonna vacuum again, and then even when I have like that fuel tube right there, or pretty much the fuel rail, common rail, I'm gonna take that and I might just use my shop vac, destroy probably the shop vac. I just want to make sure there's no debris. I'd rather destroy a shop vac than the motor itself or injectors. It costs a lot more than a shop vac, or the little one I'm using anyway. But just make sure you just work as clean as possible. Those chips were coming off from like just when you're tightening stuff and you're moving the wire and stuff like that. The paint does chip, so even go through and give them like an extra tap just to make sure, or try to get as much fragments off. You're gonna vacuum, clean, and just finish unbolting the grid delete, and the intake plenum will be getting installed right now. Make sure all the wires are disconnected, everything's out of the way. We're at a good spot right now, and yeah, but let's keep going, get this done, get this out, get it cleaned up and installed. All right, and like all those little loose piece of red paint is what I'm speaking of. As you can see, like all the openings for our fuel, I'm sure there's cap offs you could get to put on there just to make sure. Like in that one, you see like a little bit of a debris, but I am gonna blow all that stuff out. But yeah, just to go through, I'm gonna have my little shop vac, this little guy right there, go through and just get all this stuff out. Okay, so we have all the bolts removed from the intake plenum, the common rail. I have them organized like this, starting from the rear, working their way towards the front, just so that way you know exactly where they go, because you can see like there's different lengths and different fixtures for your wiring harness to mount to. And then also my boost bolt, that's just where I picked to put it. I could have picked any one of these three. I might relocate that depending on ease of install. I probably could take that one and put it back here. We'll see how I'm feeling. But right now, the common rail is coming out, and before I do so, I'm gonna go ahead and do another vac just to be on the safe side. See a couple more like red flakes from just removing those hardware from the common rail itself. So one more vacuum, and then we'll pull that out. And we'll get that grid heater attached to the intake plenum out, and we'll get this cleaned up, get the new one in, all that jazz. But one more, like, I can't stress like cleanliness enough. Make sure you're trying to be as clean as possible. And I have this block of wood here just to push the harness off to the side. I do have like zip ties up there holding stuff off to the side, of course. Also, just I have a bigger, better area to work with. You don't want to be struggling to fight and push stuff out of the way, because when you start moving stuff, that's when stuff like debris starts to like to drop. So do not agitate any of the surrounding area more than you have to. But one more back and we'll get that out. So now we're gonna get our common rail out, something clean to catch it. There will be some residual fuel coming out. Just try to have like a clean spot to catch it or to throw it into. But everything's disconnected, or I believe everything is disconnected. Yeah. Don't force anything. All right, we have this one fuel line right there holding us up. I'm gonna look on the side. There's probably like another bolt I have to undo to get some more clearance. Let me check. Here's that one bolt right there. Right there. We gotta loosen that up and we should have enough clearance. Probably don't even have to take it all the way off, but just loose. All right, so this is the new intake plenum. This is the old sensor out of the old plenum. This sits in like so. I'm gonna clean this up a little bit. I'm not gonna try to spray anything in the sensor itself. I don't want to mess that up, but the O-ring I will replace with, I have a Vitant set, so I'm gonna use that. The kit does come with risers and O-ring, but the O-ring is like too wide where like it'll end up sitting on top like so, but I wanted it to sit like within the body, so I'm gonna go and just find a Vitant that matches up with that, press that in there, put like a little oil or a little Vaseline around that to put that in to help it get in without like rolling itself. But it was good timing for replacing it, because on the old grid heater, this is kind of like a precautionary thing also why people do change this. This bolt will unweld itself and then end up falling into your intake, or actually from like this point, but mine's actually disconnected up top and you can see like it's arcing and welding itself when you're using it. So it probably was a matter of time before this bolt right here would end up falling, snapping off and running into our motor and causing some damage. So we don't want damage, so I guess it's perfect timing. This was just kind of like a preventative maintenance and side of the road kind of like action. Is the main reason why I decided to go with that intake plenum. So I guess it was perfect timing, and yeah, a little price to pay for some insurance and a peace of mind, because a new motor or a rebuild would definitely cost a lot more than the intake plenum itself. So good timing on my part. This doesn't happen to every vehicle, but just so happens to be mine. It has just reached over 200,000 miles. So we have that. So I'm still in the process of getting stuff cleaned up. I just wanted to let you know, switch that sensor off, and I did unscrew it and push from the back side to just be careful with that sensor. I didn't want to have to snap that and buy another one. So it came out pretty easy. And anti-seize on the little bolt that holds that sensor in, and then for the bolts that came, or actually that hold the plenum in, some of them there is like red RTV on those. So we're just gonna repeat, or repeat what they did and put a little dab of RTV. That's probably just to kind of help prevent like boost leaks, air leaks, because like if the air could come up through the holes themselves. So we're just going to make sure we do that for those. But yeah, I'm just cleaning up stuff. I'm in there cleaning off the maintenance surfaces, just cleaning. I'm not going to bore you with that. We're going to get that in, sensor swapped over, and we'll get to the install, and I'll show you where the risers go under the common rail. So yeah. right, that's just to keep those in place while I get like the other ones started. But we do have the risers. I'm gonna go clean up my common rail right now. Ignore the music in the background. I did that just to keep the plenum in place, so that way the gasket didn't slide or anything like that. So I just did a couple that didn't include like those risers for the common rail. So right now I'm gonna get the common rail cleaned up. We'll get that in and I'll show you where the spacers go. And don't forget the RTV. I'm using a high temp red. You could probably use Yamabond on this situation also, which I usually prefer and like Yamabond, but since it was red that came off, I'm gonna throw more red, just RTV on it. You don't have to go crazy with it. And also will probably help keeping that from vibrating loose also. So definitely make sure you seal it, and then you want to keep air from coming out through the holes also. But let me get cleaned up, or the common rail cleaned up, and we'll get back to doing the install with our spacers or risers for the common rail. And clean, vacuum, double check your ejector tubes that there's not any debris in there. There's like a little fuel that's probably still floating in there, so it'll keep probably the dirt towards the top, like suck it out. Risk your shop vac, not your motor. But yeah. All right, so we have our risers in right now. Those little pieces that hold up the common rail to where it's supposed to go actually makes the install and removal easier because of the intake plenum on the factory when those are fixed. So you kind of have to work around those, but like those risers being able to come out makes the install a whole lot easier. Make sure you reconnect all your fuel lines. That's what's coming in right now. We're gonna start from the back 6 and work our way down. That's the best way to get them back in there. Make sure you torque to spec and do not let that fuel tube rotate, so hold that down while you torque down the fuel rails themselves. But I'm gonna go through, as you saw, I just had kind of just getting everything snugged. I need to go through and retorque all of this stuff also. Nice little even pattern. So I'll probably go through again once I have like the horn on there, and then we'll get it like everything like torqued. I'll start from the center, work my way out so it gets evenly torqued. So right now everything is just getting like torqued down, just so that way nothing's moving and nothing will fall out. I'm gonna go through and vacuum again also, just to make sure this is as clean as possible. But it looks good, it's going well, it actually fits. That was also a concern of mine, if it will fit my vehicle, because things aren't really like vehicle specific for the 08 Utilimaster body, cab over, cab on chassis, whatever you want to call it. So it's just kind of like a lot of trial and error, just getting parts and hoping that they actually fit, or pulling parts and getting part numbers. So I'm gonna keep going what I'm doing right now. We'll get this going, get the fuel rails on there, get those torqued, and then once those are torqued, we could get our horn, our intake horn on there, get that gasket put on there, bolts in, boost tube for my boost gauge, all that, and get it torqued, and yeah. But yeah. All right, so what I'm doing, I'm just putting the bolts in. It's kind of hard to see the angle, but there are different lengths, so be aware of that. Like I did just kind of mark it in a cardboard box just where the bolts are supposed to go. So right now it's just kind of working back in there. It's a little tight. You're gonna just go through, reattach, or after you torque everything to 18 foot-pounds, reattach all your wires that you disconnected, plug everything back in, and double check. Yeah, just take your time. We're at that point right now. We're still waiting on fittings for the coolant side, so I could do that block off plate and just actually run the vehicle. So until those parts arrive and until I get the right parts for that, we won't be able to start the vehicle quite yet. I don't want like coolant to spew, like it'll be a little bit, but like I don't want to make a mess out here if I don't have to. So I'm gonna go through and just make sure you had everything plugged up with like paper towels or whatever to keep debris. Make sure you take all that stuff back off before you put stuff on. I do have my block off plate I need to put on there also, but right now we're just gonna get the intake horn down, so like the hard part of this install will be done. This will be torqued out of the way, and then just make sure, like double check like your fuel injection, or not fuel injection, your common rail. Everything is torqued to spec, like the rails that go to the ejector tubes, torqued down to spec also. It's kind of like one of those things where it's critical that you actually torque. I didn't do like the tubes themselves, but I tried my best not to move them like when I was untorquing. So if there is like an issue with starting or something like that, or it feels like it's running a little rough, I'll probably go back to that point and double check those, make sure those are torqued, and also double check for leaks when we get to that point of starting. But anyways, I'm not gonna record me putting these bolts back in. I put my boost tube back in and all that stuff, and then yeah, we're getting closer, but still waiting for parts. So this is day, I don't know, but we're just waiting for parts. So when parts show up, we'll make it happen, we'll get it finished, and we'll show a startup, and hopefully we won't have any issues. And also, if you're not reusing your grid heater, remove that wire that runs up to the solenoids up here. You don't want those to ground out, causing issues. So definitely remove that now rather than later. And I plan on having it install like another grid heater at a later future. I need to find an adapter or a place I want to. I'm thinking if I could get that out and find an adapter or drill and tap into that, I could put a grid heater 2 style into that spot right there, and then I'll be able to still have like a cold start helper function. So yeah, but anyways, let me keep going. All right, so here we are so far. I'm still waiting on parts, and of course the postal service said they couldn't find the address, even though I had the same shipping order, had the same address, 2 different carriers. One got it right, UPS, and USPS did not. So waiting on more parts. Those parts were supposed to be here today. I have another part that's supposed to be here in 2 days. So now we're 3 days out versus the 2 originally was, because I had to have the other part reshipped. But anyways, we have more work to do, or still can do, while we're waiting. Right now we need to get this block-off plate installed onto here. Make sure you take out your tissue or whatever you're using to block off the hole so nothing crawled in there like bugs. So the block-off plate, I got a new gasket. I tried to like drill another gasket to make it fit. That didn't work, or just was a pain, so I ended up just getting the gasket. Part number 5447591 for my vehicle. So we have that, and we also need to install our EGT probe, which is right here. I believe it's like 1/8 NPT. It did come with like additional bong you can weld onto your exhaust, or you could just drill and tap. The reason why I'm using the block-off plate is because it already has it in there, so I don't have to worry about drilling and tapping. I just have to put that in. I'm going to use anti-seize on everything, including the hardware I have right here, just because it's a high-temp exhaust. We don't want bolts seizing up, and just if we have to like take stuff apart in the future, make life a lot easier. So we're going to do that. This side is also bolted back up. I need to probably just throw some zip ties on some stuff like right in here, just to keep stuff from like bouncing around. I'll take care of that. That's not really too important. But this side is the side we're waiting for those fittings. You see all like the gloves on, hose ends just blocking stuff and dirt from going into them. But when they come, we'll get into that. I have to cut, splice, and hopefully the fitting that's supposed to be here in 2 days is the correct size. I ordered actually the size up and size down from what I believe the right size is, so that way I'll have it, hopefully have it, and don't have to order more parts and wait even longer. But anyways, we're gonna get into getting this block-off plate in. Like I said, anti-seize. Let me go find that. We'll get those bolts installed. We'll get the block-off plate. We'll get our EGT probe at least hooked up and get that ran to where it needs to go. It plugs in under there that way. If you watched the previous videos, it's been a long time since I did the video with the install of the gauges. That stuff was already previously done. Now it's just running the probe to the connector for the gauge. I plan on going from of course right here, and then just running it through, most likely drilling a hole right there and using like RTV or even some kind of like grommet to go through. I don't want that cable to end up chafing and breaking and causing damage. So that's another thing, we have to figure that out. But that's what we're doing today. Right now I'm just waiting for parts, so it's just kind of trying to get as much stuff done in between as possible. We're not being stressed out in one day waiting for everything to show up and just trying to get everything knocked out. But yeah, let's get that put on, get that on, installed. Yeah. We're gonna get a start on installing these hoses here. I have various fittings, hose, 3/4 silicone, 1/2-inch water hose. This was the questionable fitting. I did measure it. I did match it up to the old part. It is a flat-faced fitting. It's a -8 to -8. This is the part number right here if you need it. Just because this vehicle isn't like the same exact like a Dodge, so like the adapters and stuff wouldn't work, or just or seem like a pain. So this is the key. Still waiting on one part, but we're gonna get going. The one part we're waiting for is pretty easy. It's an AN fitting. That's what the 1/2 inch is for. But we do have our 3/4, the 3/4 barbs, 3/4 to a 1/2 inch barbs also. That's where the 1/2 inch comes in. And then we do have, this is pretty much our bleeder to our expansion tank. So I did have to order a vibrant banjo set right here. I'm not going to use the banjo bolt that came in it. I'm going to use this with either the crush washers that come in this. So let me get that open. Shoe. This is what I need right here, and this goes to the piece that we're waiting. So anything, it just goes in banjo like that. We put an AN fitting on there for a 1/2 inch barb to tee in, and I'll show you where I'm teeing in. And it does have the crush washers. Comes with the banjo bolt that I'm not using. Part number, if you can see that right there. So we have that, and then also to adapt from our specialty fitting that we had ordered. This right here, we have this part number right there, and that includes this piece right here. So we could go from our -8 and bump that up to our -12. So it goes 8 right here to 12 like so. And then we have another fitting. This is just a summit part right there, a -12 to 3/4 barb. So that will go like so. So it's just a lot of dropping down and going up to get it to where we need to go, and then that way we can have that attached to our turbo coolant line. And I'll show you, and actually we can start with that right now. So the flat face O-ring, as you can see, there's an O-ring in there, and that's a flat face right there. Go ahead, if you feel like any like jagged pieces, make sure you clean that up. Make sure there's no high raises so you don't have anything leak. But we need this. This is like the main concern. Once we have this, everything else is just pretty much plug and play. So my measurements, I am pleased to say, are the right measurements. So we have that on there, and then you fill that seat. So then once you have that, we go to our -8 to 12, and there is a little O-ring in there also. Usually you don't need to have the O-ring on some of these fittings, but just an extra or insurance can't hurt. So it goes from that, and then we have our 1/2 inch barb like so, and this is out of the way, so something like so. So now you just have to figure out barb. It is a little longer than I was expecting. I could probably loosen this and kind of cock it more that way, or Or I could take the bottom one off if it's the same exact like fitting down below, or that probably will go, dang, I'll probably need like a female to that to make that work if we took this off. So we need to try to figure out if we can make this work. It is a little long. I don't want to have like a crazy ratness of hose running in here. So we have that, and then we need to figure out hose wise from here going down to there, and you just have to be careful because this will get hot right here. So the least amount of space, we could probably do something like so, but then we also have to make sure we could fit our barb fitting in there. So we did something going over in here like so. We have that, and then we have to make it over to the fitting over there. So I could loosen down here, rotate that so it goes around the turbo, and that'll drop the fitting a little further up this way. So I'm going to see if I can attempt to do so without too much effort. All right, so I finally received the fitting I was waiting for, the Dash 8 to barb. I already went ahead and installed it. I already went ahead and got all like the fittings in place and everything attached and tightened. So we have our EGT probe right there, our 3/4 to half, our 3/4 down in there, the 3/4 T. So we have everything, our unions and everything are attached from the turbo. You saw the part numbers already before, they're there. Just right now, the only thing left really to do is to fill the coolant back up, prime the system. I have like the electronic pump, so like the priming part will be easy till the filters are ready, and it kind of like purges itself to get the air out. So you don't have to worry about that with the fast. But the last fitting is down in there. I know it's hard to see. It's behind that. It's dark, I know. But that was the last fitting we're waiting for. So right now we just need to fill the coolants in the bucket. Definitely try to strain it. I have a sock, so like if it looks dirty, I'm going to use this to strain it to make sure we get all the pebbles out. And excuse the horn. And I do have a siphon, little pump kit just to pump it out, so I don't have to try to lift it up to pour it and make a big mess. So I plan on just using that to pump and get that filled. But let me pump, get that filled, and I know you're waiting for the start. And also just a reminder, this is demonstration purposes only. It's just because I have the parts, might as well make use of it, get some content out of it, and just show you how it's supposed to be done, or even just making it done or making it happen, just because like there's not a real kit for this. So we're gonna make it work. We're gonna see what it does. So the main thing is making sure the coolant lines don't leak, and it works how it's supposed to. That little barb fitting, that Dash 8 to the 1/2 inch barb, goes to the purge line that goes into the overflow tank. So if all that works and everything flows and nothing's like binding up, like I don't know, pressure wise, should be fine. And then also we do have to worry about our fuel and making sure everything was torqued correctly for our fuel tubes, because if it's not, then you have like fuel leakage and stuff like that. Check for white smoke out your exhaust. Definitely torque all that to spec. There's like one fitting where it's questionable, where it's kind of tight for me getting in there, but it should be good. But like if I do have to go through and recheck, I know I'm going to go to that fitting that I don't really feel too confident that I got it torqued 100% to where it's supposed to be, but it's close to where it's supposed to be. So yeah, but anyways, I'm gonna get this filled. We'll get to the first start to see if we get it started without any issues, and just try to bleed off the coolant, let the, you know, turn the heat on, of course, let everything circulate through and get the air pockets, air bubbles out. It also will kind of self bleed as you kind of go, so just watch the levels on the vehicle also. But enough yapping, let me get the pumping, let me get the filling, let's get to started. All right, so the coolant's filled. Right now we're gonna give it a whirl, give it a go, give it a start, and see how it goes. Hopefully no leaks, everything should be good. Fuel side, coolant side, everything is done. Go through, double check, make sure you unplugged all your things that you had plugged, like if you're using paper towels to keep stuff from going inside of it. Double check. I did double check my intercooler because I was just second guessing myself. So instead of just starting the motor, like, oh, let's see what happens, double check. Rather do it before you start than after you start. But anyways, enough of that. I'm going to try to do a quick start without letting it go through like the process of doing like the wait to start function, and we're gonna see. I do have a scan tool if I need to go through and scan, but right now let's just turn the key, do a little hit. Prime the fuel system. Go, running. Check engine light, of course. Check engine light, of course. I'm gonna run the scan, but right now we're gonna turn our heat on. We're gonna go crazy high, just so our heater core circulating this coolant. Try to get all the air pockets out. Also checking for leaks. Smoke. While that warms up, I'm gonna get my scan tool out, do a quick little scan, and we shall see what that check engine light is. Let me get that set up because that takes like a minute for it to get booted up and everything. Just so we can see and verify what that check engine light is. It should be from the grid heater being removed, but we'll verify that. All right, so I got everything ran. I did have a code, but it was for air intake, temperature and pressure. There's a sensor right there in the back on that intake where we did the grid heater delete. So the plug wasn't allowing me to, well, I wasn't able to get the plug all the way on just because of how it was seated. It comes with a new O-ring that raises it up. So I unbolted it, raised it up, plugged it in, clipped it, and then tightened it down. So there's still a little O-ring to seal that. But that was my cause for my check engine. I thought I'll have it for the grid being deleted, but it's not doing that. We're doing our coolant system still. Sorry for the noise. We're getting that heat going. But I just want to say bada boom, bada bang, it's installed. Work at your own risk. This is educational purposes only. I'll see you on the next one. Peace, DJ.